Greetings all! This is the final part of Lesson 1 entitled The Self in Various Philosophical Perspectives. So before we have our discussion for today, let's have a recap of the things that we talked about last meeting. First in our list is Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine is the first theologian. He integrated his philosophy with Christianity. So he believed that both the body and the soul are imperfect and changing. However, the soul is capable of reaching immortality through God if we live a virtuous life here on earth. Second, we have our line of modern philosophers here. The first one we have René Descartes. Okay. As a rationalist himself, he acknowledged that doubting is very important in order to pursue rational thinking. However, although you can doubt everything, what you cannot doubt is the existence of the self. Even if you are doubting, still your doubting self exists. Remember that doubting signifies thinking, and Descartes said that this is our essence, that we are thinking thing. The fact that we are thinking, we are involved in mental operations. Thinking proves our existence. That's why Descartes said that I think, therefore I am, or in Latin, cogito ergo sum. Next, we have John Locke. John Locke claims that the self is consciousness, no? Just like what you can see. When you are conscious, you have the awareness of the things that are happening around you amidst changing time and place. You know what and how you have experienced things because you are conscious and you remember those things. Because of this, you are able to establish a coherent and consistent image of yourself, which help you understand it. Next is the audacious David Hume, who claimed that there is no self. Okay? So like Locke, Hume is an empiricist, no? Who believes that all knowledge comes from sense experiences. However, because you react differently to things and events that are happening around you, you relate differently to people that you meet every single day, you interpret things differently and put meanings in your experiences differently, Hume contends that there is no self. Also, this is the reason why even if we actively look for the self, we simply cannot find it. So for Hume, the self is just an illusion, plus an imaginary creature that is resulted from a bundle or collection of different perceptions which succeed each other in an inconceivable rapidity and are in perceptual flux and movement. Last one we have Immanuel Kant. No? Kant disagrees with Hume, just like what I told you last meeting, no? By saying that the self indeed exists and we construct it. Kant asserts that our primary experience of the world is not in terms of a disconnected stream of sensations, just like what Hume said. Instead, we perceive and experience an organized world of ideas, objects, and relationships, all existing within a fairly stable space and time. For Kant, the world is not a disconnected stream of sensations. We organize it. All the perceptions, all the experiences are woven together into a fabric that is familiar to us. Without further ado, let's proceed with Physicalism. Alright? Physicalism is the philosophical view that all aspects of the universe are composed of matter and energy and can be fully explained by physical views. This means that everything is physical, that there is nothing over and above the physical. This suggests that everything in this world can be explained by science. Everything can be observed, can be recorded, can be measured. Everything can be explained by presenting concrete evidences. In this, the concepts of the soul and the consciousness are rejected. Physicalists do not believe in them. So basically, class, physicalists reject the idea of dualism. Now, our first physicalist is Gilbert Ryle. According to him, the self is how you behave. This means, class, that if you want to understand yourself, you have to use science so that you can gather concrete evidences. So just like what I told you a while ago, physicalists believe that everything can be explained by science. We can be sure, class, when we use science because the data that we gather are more likely accurate and based on what is observed and experienced in actual situations. It's different when we talked about the soul and consciousness because, let me ask you, can you observe the soul? Can you touch, see, and feel the consciousness? Can you measure it? Ryle insists that we need to focus more on what we can observe, such as behavior. So, this means, class, na hindi naniniwala si Ryle sa consciousness, no? So, X na yan, pati na rin yung soul. So, yeah, we have to focus more on behaviors according to Ryle. So for example, smiling. You can see how one smiles. You can even count how many times he smiles. Talking, just like what I am doing right now. You can time the total minutes that I talk. If you want, you can even count all the words that I have been uttering. These are behaviors, class. Behaviorism does not rely on private events and hypothetical constructs such as soul and consciousness, no? Kaya nga X na yan, no? It focuses on public events such as observable behaviors. With this, the self is defined according to the behaviors that are shown to the world and to the people in it. So, just like what we have here, no? Ryle contends that the self is a pattern of behavior, the tendency or disposition for a person to behave in a certain way in certain circumstances. Again, your behaviors are how you manifest yourself in the world. Just like Joker. This is a very good movie, class, no? Sana napanood nyo ito. He's aggressive and ruthless, right? He audaciously kills people and steals from them. These behaviors, class, of Joker compose the self-concept that he wants the world to perceive of him. Alright? So, let's proceed to the second physicalist, which is Paul Churchland. Paul Churchland, class, applies recent advances in science to his philosophy. So remember, class, in our generation today, we are now able to use advanced technology in order to unravel the mysteries that bind the consciousness and the body together into an integrated self. In fact, there are sophisticated techniques today that allows us to see and observe the specific areas of the brain that are related to certain mental functioning cognitively or emotionally. So, one of the most dynamic researches of the current time, no, knowing and exploring the mind and the brain relationship, no. So, aside from that, class, no, we now have drugs to influence emotional states as well, no. We have drugs for depression and social anxiety. So, even brain scan can reveal physical abnormalities that are related to certain psychological disorders. We can now analyze which part of the brain functions when we speak, when we analyze something, when we feel emotions, when we remember things, and so on, no? In this way, we can see the connection of the mind and the brain. So remember, class, brain is the organ while the mind is the thinking thing. And the brain and the mind together, they make mental operations possible. So, yeah, the ultimate goal of these advancements is to actually link the self to the neurophysiology of the brain. That's why Churchland claims that the self is the brain. He also supports eliminative materialism, or the radical claim that our ordinary, common sense understanding of the mind is deeply wrong and that some or all of the mental states posited by the common sense do not actually exist. No? So although the study class of the brain and the self relationship is still on progress even up until today, but we cannot deny the fact na significant din naman yung development sa study nito class, no? So again, according to Churchland, the self is the brain. All right. So, um, next to physicalism, we have another view class, no, in philosophy. And tingnan natin kung sino itong kasunod. Yes, no? So, Edmund Husserl. So, Edmund Husserl class is a phenomenologist, no? So, phenomenology is a philosophical approach that attempts to give a direct description of our experience as it is in itself, no? Without taking into account its psychological origins or causal explanations. So we don't need to ask how, no? We don't ask why. We just ask what the experience is. Kung ano yung experience, yun na yun, right? The experience is simply described as it is. All knowledge of ourselves and of our world is based on the phenomena of experience. So, for Husserl, the division of the mind and the body is a product of confused thinking. So, no, hindi din siya naniniwala sa dualism ni Socrates at ni Plato class, no? So, Husserl believes that we cannot separate the mind and the body. All right? So, we experience the self in a way that it is unified and one. So the physical and the mental are seamlessly woven together. So they cannot be separated class. So yun na nga, no? Si Husserl, he rejects dualism. Okay, so ayan, so nandito na tayo sa pinakahuling philosopher class, no, sa lesson na ito. Siya ay si Maurice Merleau-Ponty. Okay? So si Merleau-Ponty class, he expanded the idea of phenomenology by simply declaring that I live in my body. So he means that we are lived body. There is no such thing as a dichotomy of the body and the self, no? So hindi din siya naniniwala sa dualism class. Lived body is an entity that can never be objectified or known in a completely objective sort of way. A lived body is a synthesis of the body and the mind. You cannot separate them because they experience the world as a whole person. You cannot say that a certain experience is mutually exclusive for the body or the mind only. So when you say, I am sad, I am angry, I am sick, you are only referring to a single integrated entity that is you. A blending of mental, physical, and emotional being that is you. Everything that we are aware of and can possibly know is contained within our own consciousness. It is impossible to get out from your own consciousness class because it's you. It presents the boundaries of our personal universe, the so-called real world of objects that exists in space and time, exists as objects of your own consciousness. This means that you absorb the things around you into your own consciousness, and these things become part of your inner universe. They become part of your own consciousness. Okay, so sana class ay marami kayong natutunan. Sana ay marami kayong na-realize sa lesson na ito. For your activity, it's actually entitled Me, Myself, and I. So here are the instructions. Choose one philosophical view of the self and describe how it applies to you. Cite your own experiences as much as possible. Make sure to have an introduction, body, and conclusion. Make a 1 to 3 minute video presentation. Make sure you appear in the video. Upload the video in YouTube, send the link in Edmodo, turn in the link in the assignment folder. Criteria for grading are as follow: content, or substance, 10 points. Originality, 10 points. Delivery, 10 points. Compliance, 10 points, a total of 40 points. For questions, class, do not hesitate to actually ask me. You can raise it in our GC or visit me in my office. Thank you!